All right, it's 11 o'clock. Hello, everyone. We're back today for our fourth webinar of the year. Today's topic, we're going to be discussing getting the most from speakers through management, recruiting, and motivating. So we're all thankful that you guys are here with us today. We have an awesome lineup of industry panelists here to share their insights onto how top briefing and engagement programs are managing their discussion leaders through recruiting, training, and ongoing management. So today we're going to hear some advanced and beneficial tactics for keeping speakers and presenters highly motivated for success. So before we dive into the webinar portion of the event, I'm excited to introduce our co-hosts and our panelists. So helping me today, we have Naomi Price. I recently have had the honor to meet her with a few weeks ago, and it's just been very delightful to have her on board with us here. She's going to help us lead this discussion forum. Naomi is the Vice President of Global Accounts from Mendel Communications. So I just wanted to pass it over to her and let her introduce herself. Like I said, we're really excited to have her here with us today.
Thanks, Allie. We at Mendel Communications have been members of ABPM for over 20 years. I joined about 15 years ago, a little over that. And I've been really, really lucky to work with those of you in the ABPM community who are dealing with so many really smart people who have a lot of complex information that they need to be able to distill and communicate so that your customers, partners, prospects can make better business decisions faster. That's our jam. That's the work we do best. And I'm really excited about the colleagues that we have on our panel today. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks. All right. So to introduce all of our panelists, we're really eager to hear all your different perspectives. I know that you guys all come from various industries, so we're ready to learn and hear what you guys are doing. So first off, we have Stacy Milligan. She's the Executive Briefing Program Director at Cohesity. So hello, Stacy. We'd love to hear a little bit about yourself and your company. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Alessandra. So Stacy Milligan, as Alessandra said, I'm the director for Cohesity's Executive Briefing Program, and we are based in Silicon Valley in San Jose. That's where our headquarters are. And I would say we're a young program. When I say young, we're about probably from inception to where we are now, about 3 years old. And being that we're a startup, we have probably an active discussion leader community, I would say about 40, maybe 40 plus, not including our exec team. I think we're fortunate because we are still small that they are very engaged. You know, you always have your few outliers. But that's where our program is. And I've been in the EBC industry for over 20 years. So my comments today will take into account my experience at Cohesity, but then also a lot of the other programs that I've been in as well. So thanks for this opportunity.
Great. Thanks for being here. All right. And then next we have Paula Angeleri. She's the Senior Content Speaker Program Manager at Amazon Web Services. Thank you for being here, Paula. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and giving us a little information about what you're doing.
Sure. So Paula Angeleri, I was doing the math this morning, and I've been a part of the EBC community for 8 years, which seems wild, but I spent the majority of that time leading the program at Rackspace Technology, which I would classify as a getting to mature briefing program when I left, but much smaller than where I am today. Today, I joined AWS about a year ago, going on a year. And here I'm focused on content and speakers, which the program is at a much bigger scale, definitely a global program, which was not a component of the Rackspace program. So like Stacy, I'm speaking with 2 different sets of experience and really excited to be here. I think I might be biased since it's my job, but I think content and speakers are maybe the most critical part of an EBC. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So thank you for introducing yourselves. Before we start the webinar portion, I did want to get the audience involved. We have a few poll questions that we wanted to put out there and just display, just to see where your company is in regards to today's topic. So I'm going to go ahead and display a poll and give you guys a few minutes, and then I will go ahead and provide the results. So bear with me. I'm going to put the poll on here. Okay, so question number 1, how many active discussion leaders do you have in your program? we're getting some responses. Give you guys another like 20 seconds just to fill this out. All right. So I'm going to end this one and I'm going to share the results with you guys so you can see. So it looks like the majority, about 63%, the amount of discussion leaders that they have are 1 through 50. And then secondly, we have 13% with 50 to 100. And then at 25%, we have about 200 to 500 discussion leaders. Okay. And then I'm going to share one more poll with you guys here. And the question is, how many briefings does your program deliver in a year? So not yet, we're still building 1 to 100, 100 to 500, 500 to 1,000, or 1,000 plus. Give a few more seconds here. Okay, I'm going to display these for you. So it looks like 14% are not doing any briefings at the moment. They're still building. 57 1 through 100. At 29%, we have 100 to 500, and then we don't have anything from 500 beyond. Perfect. Thank you guys for sharing. I appreciate that. Okay, so I did want to mention before we do start the webinar that we are utilizing the chat feature at the bottom. So if you guys do have any questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat feature and we'll try to answer all the questions as they come in. So with that being said, I'd like to pass it over to Naomi so she can start asking the panelists questions.
Thanks, Ali, and thank you so much for inviting the voice of the customer. We know that's a best practice according to the ABPM world-class standards. I would love to start with you, Stacy, based on your vast experience. I know that you started in the industry when you were about 9 years old. You've worked with some really massive programs. What's your process for managing discussion leaders? We know that you have a breadth of doing it in your history and now in this newer budding program.
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. So I'll speak probably first about what we're doing at Cohesity. And again, just with that smaller program perspective, but we use Briefing Source really as our tool for managing our speaker bureau. And then of course, I think married to that also is the ever-present spreadsheet that I think we all have in some form or fashion, no matter what size your program is. So, and we actually, I will say we were fortunate enough to have an intern this summer. So that was one of his big projects, was actually updating that, because we've just had a lot of, in a positive way, a lot of churn, a lot of new, leadership on the product teams. So, but what we really do once we have everything organized and all the right information is we do use Briefing Source as our, I guess you'd call it our speaker bureau and our main speaker resource and organizational tool. And so we align the speakers with the appropriate topics within that tool. And then we also use that to house their bios, their photos, because we do also use the Nexus portal. So that's the important part, is we want our customers to be able to log in, see their agenda, see who they're going to be meeting with, understand a little bit more about their background expertise. And so that's where that bio and that headshot piece is pretty critical. But again, we still do, kind of on the back end, there's always that, I guess you call it, say the knowledge is always in our head. We might just keep a spreadsheet off to the side that we kind of keep updating until we have that chance to, keep our tools updated as well. And then in terms of as new hires or new discussion leader resources come on board, having the benefit of being small, you see that announcement come through, and either myself or Jasmine, she's actually on this call here, we reach out to them personally. And so it's a very one-on-one type engagement. We get on the phone with them, we talk about our program. It's always great to understand from them what their experience is with EBCs. A lot of them do have experience, but we just like to talk about our process, what they can expect, understand their best ways to communicate and what they're interested in. And then we do also get a lot of requests, and we do try and honor having them audit a couple of briefings before they participate. We just get the approval of the account teams. So that's kind of near term, like I said, what we're doing at Cohesity. I think as you have larger programs, that's when, formalizing that onboarding process for new speakers, and maybe having, whether it's a monthly, weekly kind of drop-in session to make sure that, those new folks can get up to speed with what the EBC program is, what the expectations are. Are there any, accreditations or anything that they need to do to be a speaker? That's where you kind of have to look at scaling. But I would say that's probably, really how we approach our discussion leader management.
Thank you, Stacy, and hi, Jasmine. We're happy to see you here as well. Paula, we do not think that you're biased. We agree that speakers and content are mission critical to the success of any briefing program. Can you share a little bit about your approach to ensuring that you have the best speakers for your customers?
Sure. So very differently from Rackspace, my experience in the past, we have a very deep content catalog at AWS because of the breadth of solutions and services that we offer. And so we have a homegrown tool through which we manage our speaker community, and we organize our subject matter experts and discussion leaders and align them to areas of expertise. So we work very closely with another stakeholder group who are our content owners, and we're working with them to identify what types of content, what conversations we want to highlight in the EBC, and then map discussion leaders to those topics. And then we rely on the content owners to determine what qualification criteria speakers need to have to lead those discussions. So do they need to be technical? Are they solutions architects, or are they business leaders or business development managers? And we work to understand those criteria by topic or track, which is what the topics roll into. And then through the tool, our briefing teams can look and see which speakers are endorsed to speak to those topics. And then we do provide resources in terms of training that is specific to EBC deliveries for these subject matter experts. And we also require that they complete AWS messaging training, which is managed by a different team, but they go through this associate speaker certification, which ensures they're complying with and delivering consistent messaging across the company. So we are relying on things that have been created by others to ensure that our briefing discussion leaders are prepared to interact with our customers. So that's a little bit about how we manage them logistically in the tool. And then I'm in Seattle in our headquarter EBC this week, really looking forward at how we will find new ways to better develop and prepare our speakers for EBCs globally. So there's exciting things that we're working on.
Wonderful. And it sounds like the weather's nice for you in Seattle as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful here.
Wonderful. Before we go on to our second question, do we have any questions that have emerged from the chat?
I do not have any questions just yet, but when I do, I will make sure to pop on here and intervene.
Super. Stacy, what is your program's, and when I say is, that makes it sound like one, but what are some of your best kept secrets, superpowers, creative, helpful tactics for discussion leader management? You've got quite the experience.
Sure. Well, in our in our prep session, the one thing that I had said that always came to mind was ice cream. It sounds funny, but what it really means is that recognition and appreciation. And when I was at Brocade, and I can't take credit for this, they had done this before I came on board, but they had a special refrigerator. It was in the lobby. It was accessible But when you had a discussion leader that did a great job, or maybe they were just there and, were there for a few hours, that was something that they had access to. It was like a privilege. So they felt like they were unique, and it was definitely a privilege just for them. So something as simple as that, they loved it. And it was something, you think about even sometimes like just a $5 gift card to somewhere, just that effort of appreciation, even if it seems small, is always so appreciated and, makes them feel special. So recognition of some sort. It's still the ice cream thing. I really can't believe how popular that was and how amazing that was. But the other thing is feedback. So surveys, I know they are really hard to get that feedback, and ours is really pretty short, which gives us a greater chance of it being completed. But they love that feedback at every level. We all know that our executives love it. It creates kind of a competitive spirit as well. So giving them that feedback is really important. And then and that feedback goes both ways. So maybe you have a situation where the briefing didn't go as you wanted, or one particular discussion leader didn't do as well. We always look at being their advocates and looking at, okay, were they not prepared? Did the sales rep not guide them appropriately? So doing a debrief after is always a great way to address that, and let the discussion leaders know that we are advocates for them. Because I really believe that the EBC has 3 customers, and it's the customer partner that's attending, but then it's your discussion leaders and executives and your sales team. So I look at them as a customer of the EBC program. So treat them appropriately and let them know that we have their back. And then training. I haven't had the opportunity yet to do that at Cohesity, but when I have done it previously, it is always just embraced. They are excited about it. And then coupled with that is, that's why I love to kind of own that process, because then the EBC team can sit in that training, and then you know personally what each discussion leader might be working on. If you have that scale, so to be able to sit in the briefing, and if you're there and facilitating, what they're working on, you see them in action, and you can provide that ongoing feedback for them and that coaching. And they've always really appreciated that. And it creates such a great, strong relationship between the EBC team and your discussion leader community. And then the other thing that we are starting to work on is doing some proactive programs in collaboration with our product teams. They have goals, sales reps have goals. So helping them achieve those goals, while also making sure that our customers are getting what they need. For example, we have one particular product line, it's kind of like the hot one that, sales reps are being incented to sell, but then that product team has their incentives. So we went to them and said, great, why don't we create, a package, an offering that's focused around your product to cross-sell, upsell, and identify target accounts for them. So we're working on that. It's a little, in-depth process, but that's one thing that they were obviously jumped all over that opportunity. So, and then, things that you just find by meeting with your teams. We discovered recently that our engineering group has an engineering top 50 accounts that they're looking to align to. So they actually asked us, it was kind of surprising. They said they would love our help, really just for training. And what I mean is, it's really kind of the basics. There's probably some presentation skills, social norms, those kind of things that they wanted to, essentially, they asked us to create a boot camp of sorts. So we're exploring that, and it's just another way to add value. And other things that I've done a note to their manager. A lot of the times that they've just gone above and beyond. I had one speaker, he was dialed in from India, and it was 2 a.m. for him, and the briefing went long. So he was on from maybe 2 to 5 a.m. his time. So definitely sent a note to his manager and say he went above and beyond, and hung in there, obviously. So that sort of recognition is helpful. And then we have marketing all hands where we can nominate our peers. So for example, if they're in product marketing and they've done a great job, nominating them for that type of public recognition is great as well.
Oh my gosh, that's a wonderful list. And you have me at ice cream. Now, is the ice cream, you mentioned something that's about keys to the refrigerator. What, can you paint us a picture of how much variety is in the ice cream fridge? What's that like?
It was a while ago, but it was pretty good variety. Also you have to have the local treats. So everyone from the Bay Area, that we had Isits, and it was really just ice cream bars, and who doesn't love ice cream? It was amazing. And we could not leave it unlocked either, because it would be just completely emptied. But yeah.
And if you're not from the Bay Area, Isits are cookies with ice cream between. They're
oatmeal cookies with ice cream and then dipped in chocolate. They're pretty good.
very, very good. Very good. Okay, let's see. So sales reps have goals, engineering's top 50 accounts, boot camp, some really, really cool ideas. Paula, I've seen you in action in the last 8 years as a manager. I've been to Rackspace. I've slid on the slide. It's an amazing facility. but you have mad skills in terms of providing people with feedback that motivates them. What can you share with us about your best kept secrets for discussion leader management, your helpful tactics? I know part of it is feedback, but I know you have other ideas as well.
Yeah, I think Stacy touched on a lot of them, so I'll build on some of what she said and how I've used it in the past. But I think one thing that is really helpful to give constructive feedback and even to drive those recognition programs is data. And so that's a huge component of like, what data are you collecting and what are you doing with it? And so that's something that's really central to us here at AWS, but also at Rackspace, is to build those programs. So when we look at recognition at Rackspace, we launched what we called the quarterly CSC, our Customer Success Center MVP Award. And that was our speaker who had delivered both the most EBCs with the highest CSAT score in combination. And it got super competitive. So we had like VPs. If they didn't get the announcement that they won, they'd come in and say, who got it this quarter? And it was just kind of a funny thing to see. And they'd, build these relationships with each other and learn from each other. And that was really cool to see. Here we also look at top speakers in terms of volume, and then look at CSAT kind of holistically, both across tracks and topics, but then at the individual speaker level as well. And we're not quite there yet, but we're trying to figure out how we develop enablement for our speakers and proactively pull them in when we're seeing a trend in their CSAT scores that's not up to the bar that we would expect for an EBC speaker, because certainly we don't want to remove them. We want to provide them with the resources they need to be successful. So that's something that we're hoping to implement in the coming year here. But I think that that little things like ice cream at Rackspace, it was cookies. Everyone wanted to do briefings because they got chocolate chip cookies. And we would also do small awards that were for speakers specifically for the Speakers Bureau. Here on an annual basis, we recognize speakers who've delivered more than 4 EBCs in a year, and they get to select speaker specific swag, and they all love them. And anytime I talk to them, they're wearing their hoodie or they show me their socks because they're so excited about their speaker socks. And I do think it really goes a long way. And to Stacey's point, it goes in 2 directions. If we see that a briefing didn't land, ensuring they have that feedback because they want to know it. What could they have done better? And I think the last piece I'll touch on here that I've seen has been really effective. I feel very fortunate to work here. There's incredibly smart people that work here, and they are super willing to share what makes them successful. And so we've started highlighting our top speakers in something we call speaker shorts, and they're 90-second to 2-minute videos where they'll talk about what to look for in a briefing document or how to prepare for a briefing and what types of questions to ask the account team. And so these are our most frequently used speakers from across the business that take time out of their days to show other speakers how to be successful and how to prepare, or even the nuances between a virtual briefing and a in-person briefing from a speaker's perspective. And so we have a good collection of those growing, and they've been really successful. And we send all our new EBC speakers to that resource so that they can hear from speakers in other parts of the globe and speakers even here in their same location, and take that and run with it as they start taking these engagements.
What can you tell us about your relationship, the relationship and support of the CEO to your program?
Yeah, we have really strong engagement from our entire S team, which is our senior executive team at AWS. And so, I think I came in expecting a different experience. At Rackspace, we were much smaller. Our CEO was in the briefing center daily, but I have in my short time at AWS had the opportunity to see Adam Slipsky, our CEO, in the space many times. And also one thing our program supports from a content and speaker perspective is our EBCs at events. So I've also had the opportunity to see our executives, including Adam, in customer briefings at events. And I think one thing that's very critical to know is, to Alex's point, we have to set all speakers up for success, but we have to, at a company of the size of AWS, have to follow a very specific executive engagement briefing process so that we're preparing them accordingly to show. But yes, I think we see a lot of executive engagement across the board. We also have a very strong executive sponsorship team, and so have a lot of executive sponsors that are very involved in EBCs and participate in some ways as facilitators when we have accounts coming in that have an executive sponsor aligned. They're very involved in the conversation and ongoing relationship, as Alex mentioned, that we have with that customer, which aligns with our leadership principle around customer obsession. It's really important to us that we're meeting them exactly where they are. And I have seen it at Rackspace. We had several CEOs while I was there, and the briefing program definitely thrives under an involved executive team. Definitely the CEO, but not just the CEO. All of the executives are really critical to that. And it does make a huge difference, I think, in the success of the program.
Sure. Stacy, what can you share with us about your CEO's engagement with the program and support?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we have a new CEO as of, I think, 3 weeks ago. So I got back from vacation the next day, and there was that announcement, and it's my hair's on fire, but it's a great thing. He's a big personality. It's a super positive thing. So he is super supportive. And even our previous CEO, he's actually transitioned back to, his roots. He would rather be programming. And so he's going to be doing that as our CTO. So they're still together. They're kind of, like brothers right now, doing a lot of the engagements together. But our previous CEO was actually super involved, almost to the point of he would do anything, any EBC, to the point of, I think he got over, he was doing too many. And he said, okay, we need to figure out, some sort of engagement guidelines. So, but that was a great problem to have, is that, he loved meeting with customers. Our new CEO, again, like I said, he came in big energy, loves meeting with customers. His first day there, of course, I found him and said, great, I run our EBC program. We'll be doing a lot together. So he said, yeah, I want to meet with everybody. So consequently, we are also doing EBCs at events. He will be at all of them. Like I said, loves, just a big personality, loves meeting with customers. So that's been interesting, because we have pretty much had 2 weeks, because we had our SKO in the middle of that, to pull all that together. And then on top of that, so he's very involved. Really, all of our e-staff is very involved from the product side as well. But that CEO support is hugely important. His presence there, showing that he wants to meet with customers. I do like also that there, is criteria as I put together this, his schedule. And actually, I'll be managing his schedule at this event that we're at next week. He's judicious as well. So reps don't just think it's a free for all. There have to be guidelines in place. So a lot of support. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited for the ride ahead. And I will say, being at any program, that exec support is so key to your success.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Wow, that's an exciting time, and I'm sure that he feels really lucky to have you at his side.
We'll see. Think good thoughts for next week, right?
Good thought. Okay, we have one more question from the field. Elizabeth Parkinson, and if memory serves me correctly, Elizabeth, I think you're at Rockwell Automation. Given the discussion of content curation, do you have a content and experience portal that makes it easy for briefing leaders to search and see what the top potential content available is to support briefings? Anyone of you that would like to share that? We've got a couple of minutes, and then we'll get back on track with our final question.
I'm happy to share my experience. We do, again, this is an internal tool that was developed before I arrived, but we do have a content portal that is specific to EBCs that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we partner with content owners from across the business. We don't curate the content to the extent that Alex is curating. We are providing and ensuring things are on our latest branding and that they meet a certain bar in terms of presentation, but we have a topic a topic title, a topic abstract, and then it does link out to any decks that they might reference to understand better what the content included is. And then within that, then as you continue scrolling down, you see which speakers are aligned to that topic in each of the regions where we have EBCs. It is a feat to keep it updated because as we've talked about, people switch roles internally, they leave the company. And so it is something we are consistently reviewing and auditing to ensure it's up to date. But it is helpful to send people there when they have questions about what type of content we offer. And then of course, in terms of decks, we really encourage minimal slides in EBCs when possible and more conversation. But some of these technical conversations do require these decks. And so they are available for both the field to see as well as our briefing teams to reference as they're planning the agendas.
Thank you, Paula. Let's get back to our final question, and that is the magic wand moment. If we were not limited by the laws of physics, by technology, by budget, by time, what is your wish? What would you want to do in your briefing program? Stacy, let's start with you.
Sure. Well, after hearing all the responses on here, I think I need an Alex on my team. I was taking a ton of notes, everything she does. That would be probably one of the first things. But yes, with unlimited budget and time and everything, I think probably since we are focusing on discussion leaders and speakers, probably doing more with that recognition and maybe doing in previous lifetime, I had done something usually around Christmas, which makes it kind of fun and festive, but just some sort of recognition event where your execs are there. So they get that public recognition for their efforts. All your speakers do. So formalizing that and then just that ongoing recognition. In terms of, like I said, just a small gift, small recognition, and even, maybe it's in a newsletter, but I would love to do something like that. And then also training and development, a formal program that, could be fully funded. I would love to actually, do that, run that and kind of keep that within my program. And maybe make that a tiered program. I've done that in the past where obviously you want the soft skills, the presentation skills, but I loved, what was discussed here. Also facilitation, that's key. We're in a hybrid world, so that's a bit different. So an ongoing, training development program would be wonderful. If we're going to dream, let's dream big. I would love an actual EBC. We don't have one of those. And I always think that our discussion leaders, it's kind of like a playground for them where they get to showcase their expertise. And maybe it's a really cool demo or a great way to showcase what they're doing or their solutions. So I'm going to dream big on that one. That would be amazing. And then, I heard just some great ideas about formalizing an onboarding program. I loved, I think what Paula said about a one pager on the program. So that would fall under the need more time type of thing, and maybe do that primary intake. We do that informally, I think, when we meet with each new discussion leader that comes on board, but I think to formalize that and maybe even have a dedicated portal for them, just a go-to resource for them would be amazing. And also looking at that messaging training. We are required actually right now, before customers always ask for the decks still, but we have to actually go through seems like extensive approval process with our quote to cash team. So I would love to streamline that or have just a content person, like a headcount there that could work on all of that and make sure that, everything's on brand is, as we distribute decks, do we have the publicly available versions ready to go? So you're not asking 20 times. I love what Paula said about speaker specific swag. That kind of falls into the appreciation and recognition. I love that idea. And then just being able to do those speaker shorts, that was great too. We'd also talked about at one point doing, I think in our prep session, just some sort of ongoing, maybe it's the Friday, provide lunch for people. They can come in and practice maybe some skills that they wanted to work on, maybe, pre-flight a new deck. So being able to do something like that would be amazing as well. Just looking at all my notes here, I think that was really everything. I know I could come up with more, and I probably will after my peers here say what they're going to say.
Stacy, one of the things that I think is a testament to the value that you add to a program and your orientation to the program first is that it was only your third wish of all our magic wand waving to actually have a center, right? This is the power of the executive briefing program that so many of your customers have been able to make better decisions faster as a result of how you are equipping your speakers. Paula, what can you share with us if you could wave your magic wand? What may I do for you? as your fairy godmother?
I wish I had a magic wand, and I'm looking at my whiteboard because I'm actually here kind of thinking big about what we want to do for speakers next year. So I can see what I wrote earlier today, very timely. I think one thing that I'd really like to see, and this is probably both a budget and a headcount ask, would be formalized and regular training, because we have so many speakers that join AWS and that join the EBC and are interested in participating, that I'd love to be able to hold these trainings that are specific to EBC engagements and be able to host them in the regions where we have EBCs. I think the nature of things is because our headquarters are here in Seattle and a vast majority of our speaker community is in this area. Sometimes our regional centers don't get all the resources that we have available. So that's something I would certainly change and something we're working towards. I also would love to more proactively work on speaker recruitment. We very heavily rely on our content owners to do that, but I think that there's opportunities for us as a team, and I think this is time and headcount again, to go to our technical field communities and different product teams and really share what the value proposition of the EBC is and how it can be beneficial to the speakers and to the content producers to participate in the program. And I think that's just time I wish that we had. And then if I had any tooling wishes at Rackspace, it was easier to do this because our speaker community was much smaller. Here, because we have so many speakers, I'd love for the tool to proactively flag concerns to us in terms of CSAT scores, or maybe even if a speaker declines every invite they get, why is that? Maybe they don't want to be an EBC speaker, so let's remove them from the list instead of having to have them decline every time. So it's really hard to manage that at scale, but would love to have tooling do that for us.
More question from Heidi Granado. How do you survey briefing attendees for their insight on discussion leaders? Do you ask for both content and presentation skills or other categories? We've got maybe 3-4 minutes left. Anybody want to weigh in on specifics of how you survey for feedback?
Yeah, I can talk to that real quick. At Cohesity, we do have, as I said, a really pretty short and sweet survey. So I don't think we ask about specifically about the topics or the content and the speaking skills. I think we just look at it overall, like, did we meet your objectives? But in a past life, I did ask that. It was a much longer survey, and that really was when we were in person. So we had that great, that we were the good fortune to be able to have them in person to answer that survey. And that's really the feedback that the presenters really wanted, because it was very specific to them. So if I could again, I would love to do that, but we're still, I would say, kind of hybrid. So like I said, we want the feedback, so we've kept it pretty short and sweet. And one of the things that Jasmine on my team had done is, if we are, for example, doing a virtual EBC, we just pop it in the chat. It's a link. We send them the link in chat, and we actually pause at the end and ask everybody to complete the survey. So we're getting better results that way.
Thank you. Paula,
I'll chime in because it's really top of mind. We do ask 2 separate questions for feedback, specifically on whether the content met their expectations or answered the objectives they had for the session. And then I can't remember exactly how we word it, but the efficiency or the effectiveness of the speaker in delivering the content. And what I've found is that it's almost always the same score. So they always seem to score both the same number. And so we're considering making it shorter, because we realize a super long survey is kind of a pain to fill out. And I'd be curious to see if others see that, but we almost consistently see the same score. So something we're considering revisiting and rewriting so that it's easier for the customer to fill out.
Thanks for that. A quick wrap up, and then I'll pass it back over to Ali. We absolutely believe in the power of the ABPM community. So if you haven't already, please connect with each of us, all 5 of us, on LinkedIn and continue asking questions and share your own wealth of ideas. I know that the next session that we have next month is going to be the amazing Pam Evans. So I imagine that Ali is going to give you a little bit of a primer on what to expect there. But we just do hope that we keep on sharing, because we all benefit from the experiences of others, regardless of the size of our programs or our tenure. Thank you, Stacy, Paula, and Alex. You're amazing.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That does wrap up our webinar. I did just want to thank Naomi for being our co-host. Your energy is amazing, and obviously your industry knowledge truly shows. So we couldn't have been happier to have you here with us. And to Stacy, Paula, and Alex, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to help educate our viewers. So we hope that everybody here on this call learned something, as I did. So your vast knowledge really shows, and we appreciate you being here. And to all of our attendees on this webinar, we hope that you guys gained some insight and you learned from the thought leaders that we had here today. And as Naomi did say, we do have an upcoming webinar. It's going to be on September 29th, which is a Thursday, again at the same time, 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the topic is going to be growing sales and C-level involvement through marketing and training. So Pam Evans will be our co-host. We're really excited to have her too. So be on the lookout for some LinkedIn registration links, as well as some personal emails that we'll be sending out within the coming weeks. So again, thank you everybody for joining, and we hope to see you guys for our next webinar.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.